Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Let's Have Renaissance, a podcast about literature and the arts. I am Ito Otini.
And I'm Makaya Otini, and today we're speaking with Mildred Inez Lewis. Mildred is a playwright, screenwriter, director, and poet. Her work has earned her the Age Legacy Award, the Grand Jury Award from Fusion Theater, the Samuel Goldwyn Screenwriting Award, and the Humanitas PLAY LA Award, among others. A strong believer in interdisciplinary work, she currently teaches writing, film theory, West African and Caribbean literature at Chapman University. We're excited to be with her today.
Thank you for tuning in. We're excited that you're here. Why don't you also subscribe, like, comment, and share this episode with your friends?
And if you know anyone who wants to come on the podcast, please do send them our way. Also, if you haven't yet, sign up for our free newsletter where we share updates, resources, and opportunities. To support the podcast, you can make a one-time donation through our website or purchase a subscription to our blog where you'll find more premium content and resources at thedatekeepers.com. Thank you for being a part of our community.
Mildred, thank you so much for joining us. We're excited to have you. Can you tell us about yourself and what are you working on now?
Thank you for having me. I'm excited after having listened to some of the other podcasts that we get to have our own renaissance.
Yeah. Thanks
Yes.
for being part of it. We're excited.
I'm from Harlem, New York. I started out as a theater director. Was really fortunate to join the Actors Studio and Circle Repertory Laboratory. And I sort of did a couple of things there. I was one of the U.S. representatives to the International Theater Festival. And then I got to a point where I was working a lot, but I wasn't making any money. So I was working sort of full-time as a paralegal at night and then directing during the day. And I thought I want to try to see if I
Wait, when did you sleep?
That's where I got to the point where I decided to go to grad school because I thought I'm rest broken. It was that 5 to midnight shift, so you still get to go to bed at night, but, rehearsing all day and just scrambling to do casting and so forth.
You know things are bad when you're like, I need some rest, so I'm going to go to grad school.
Yeah, right? Like grad school is also not a place where you sleep. Wow.
Yeah, and it was really sparked by a conversation I had with my dad. He was one of the first Black film chemists, and he worked at Deluxe, and then he worked at Movie Lab, and almost all the film business moved to Los Angeles. And it was just starting to move to Florida. And we, as a family, had such a love of film. And I feel so fortunate to have grown up in New York because you get to see Turkish films and Polish films and Jewish films and films from the African continent. So I thought I can take the skills I have as a theater director and I can apply them to television and to film. So I moved to LA and did my graduate work at UCLA. I earned my MFA in film and television, and then I earned an MA in African Area Studies. I was very interested in an area you know well, the Maghreb, as well as West African cinema, specifically Ousmane Sembène, the great Senegalese director. So that sort of completed my educational journey. I was still, working. I won a Samuel Goldwyn Creative Writing Award, but I still wanted to have some stability. And so when my mother became ill, I decided to join the academy. And I was very fortunate to get a position at Chapman University where I still teach. I began by teaching film and television, and now I really focus on playwriting and screenwriting. So that's how I came to be where I am today, which is a playwright, somebody who does a lot of rewriting for television, who writes for audio. And yeah, I'm branching out and starting my first graphic novel. So I feel so fortunate that I've been able to write across genre and to write for times that are challenging, to offer, I think, hope and encouragement, a little bit of education. So that's how we came to be together today.
That's really cool. And which one you prefer or you enjoy the most, screenwriting or playwriting?
It's apples and oranges. I think that playwriting I love because you can do something more immediate because it's so much cheaper to produce. You can be working in a 99-seat theater or you can be working in a large theater like the Ahmanson. I think that the camaraderie of playwriting, there's something really true about theater kids. The camaraderie is outstanding. I love film and television for different reasons. I love what you can do with it visually. I love the way that it can travel in the world in a way that plays really can't in terms of a mass audience. There's such different experiences, in terms of the interaction. I mean, we all know the theory, right? I mean, if you're in film, you're back to Aristotle or to Plato, and you're thinking about being in a dark room with strangers, watching images across a screen. And it's very different when you're sitting next to somebody and you're talking with them at intermission and watching the actors sweat and spit and be real in that moment. So I don't really have a preference. There are certain things I like to write for theater, the more experimental things, the more intimate things. I also write short form as well as long form. For film and television, it's a little bit more regimented. If you want to pursue a career, you really do have to know how to write genre. But the collaboration is different. For a long time, I thought, oh, producers, they know nothing. But they are so smart about their audiences and sometimes so smart about the technology. And even the way that you can be rewritten as a television writer or as a screenwriter is informative because it shows you that you have limitations. And the focus is always, or should be always, on making the film better, making it funnier, making it more visually astute, making it more intense, more provocative. And so just two different experiences. I love them both, to sum it up.
And how do you define experimental? Because it's one of those terms that everybody uses it, and I'm not sure that there's a consensus definition. So how are you defining experimental when you describe writing for film or for theater?
Sure. I'll give you a couple of examples. Using the theater of the absurd. So taking things and really sort of pushing the boundaries and getting back to what the absurdists were trying to do to sort of break the bonds of reality, to try to get at a truth that you can't get to it in the same way in a linear piece. I love the theater of cruelty. It reveals, I think, the ways that we as human beings interact with technology can unwittingly sometimes and wittingly sometimes impose cruelties on each other. And it's also a cry, a call, a demand for kindness. I love to experiment with nonlinear approaches to storytelling. I love to deal with circular storytelling. One of the first films that my father and I saw together was Le Ronde, the French film. And just the idea of characters moving in and out of story and story circling around itself. Those are the four elements that I use when I think about being experimental.
And when you're writing for either for film or for television or for theater, what are the technical constraints that you think about in each medium?
In theater, I try not to think about the technical constraints because I began my career as a director. And I think if I'm not careful, I always will try to say, well, that looks like it's going to be a budget problem, or, or this looks like it's going to be difficult for the actor to do. I try to write without thinking about those things. Naturally, when you get into the rehearsal process, you have to be open to rewriting. You have to be open to changes in location, changes in budget. But in theater, I try not to think of those things. In film, I think, and in television, I think it's really impossible to not deal with those things. If you're writing for a series, the world has already been established. You're not developing the world from scratch. You're trying to find opportunities to be creative and to add on to that existing world as opposed to building out a world, if that makes sense. And so fitting into the world is important. If you're writing a Law and Order SVU episode, if you come in with like an idea for a musical, you're just wrong. That's, I mean, it doesn't fit the aesthetic, it doesn't fit the themes. And so I think the challenge of theater is different in terms of you're creating a world and then populating it and then shaping it. You are taking advice from other people, but you don't necessarily have to take the advice because you're not a writer for hire. In film and television, you definitely are always a writer for hire, even if you're writing something on speculation. Ultimately, there's a producer or a distributor who is going to move things forward for you unless you're producing it on your own. And they have the right to and often ask for changes. A star drops out, the budget changes, the location changes. I think you have to be much more prepared to embrace pragmatic challenges, but also being open to other people's artistry. One of the things my students struggle with is understanding that every artist on the team is there to execute your vision as a screenwriter, but they're also there to execute the vision of the director. You need to understand as a screenwriter over time, as you see more and more of your work on screen, what can a makeup artist add? What can the cinematographer add? What can performance add? If you're writing fiction and you're talking about a love story and you talk about a caress and how it moves someone's heart, you might write for a page or two of elegant, really sensual, really powerful prose. In a film, they see somebody whose head is 6 to 8 feet high. They can see and read the passion in their eyes. the sound designer, the sound mixer is creating a sound world around these people that pulls the audience in. So I think in some ways film demands more openness of approach as you're thinking about the contributions of all those other artists. Theater is much more there to serve the play. As a screenwriter, you're, I think, much more there to lay a foundation for collaboration.
So this also has me thinking about how have these different worlds that you operate in changed over the course of your career? What major shifts or evolutions have you observed?
I started out in New York, which is my hometown, the Actors Studio and Circle Rep. And I must say that it was a much more rapid turnaround in the 90s for theater. You know, there was still money circulating through the New York State Council on the Arts and other state arts councils, much more money coming from the National Endowment of the Arts. That attracted more Hollywood money. There had always been a relationship between Hollywood and Broadway, obviously. I think there was sometimes money that got thrown at things that didn't really produce that well and didn't necessarily get the numbers that were wanted. So I've seen things go through cycles. You know, I mean, now one of the things we're talking about as a community is that very few musicals are making their money back.
Wow.
Interesting.
You know, I have questions because the way that film accounting and theater accounting are done raises questions about like what's really profitable and what's not profitable. My dad used to say the animated film he'd love to see is what happens to a dollar bill once it gets handed over to a ticket taker to movie theater. Because he said, how on earth is Forrest Gump still losing money on paper? And I myself, when I was at UCLA, I'll just tell you this funny story. I hope that other artists can relate and smile. I went to lunch at the Ivy, of all places, the storied retreat, to talk about possibly writing a script. And the producer paid for our meal, which was quite tasty,
Nice.
with an American Express card from a film called Superfly, which was a blaxploitation film that had happened decades before. And that's when I understood financing in theater and film, because if they were still charging current expenses against a film that had been made decades before, there was never ever going to be any profit. So I think that the
Wow.
sort of the smart approach to take is that whatever money you get in the beginning is the money that you're going to get. If you get something different, something more, that's sort of the cherry on top. But I think those things get very complicated.
Wow.
So
That's fascinating.
well, it's fascinating if you don't have, if you have your rent paid. It's a little bit less interesting.
Yeah, no, I mean, fascinating is not always a good thing.
A little bit less interesting if you are, you know, sort of needing immediate payment. But
I feel like
one
that's
of
when it's the most interesting.
Yeah, I guess, but I prefer something that's intellectually challenging, like how do I protect myself, as opposed to what will I do now?
Right. Well, we don't always get to choose our challenges, do we? They usually choose us.
Oh, Mr. Otini, you have got the nail on the head.
I wonder if we could talk a little more about your poetry. Do you treat different subjects in your poetry as opposed to when you're working for the stage or the screen? Or do you treat the same subjects, but you deal with them differently because the medium is so different?
I really started writing poetry. I'm almost embarrassed to say this, but I really started writing poetry as an exercise when I would get rejected from a film or TV job. And so
That's a good way to express yourself. Why not?
because I found that people really responded to it and I felt better about myself. So I'm like mortified that I'm not coming from some sort of grand place on this. But really, I did that a few times. It really helped me. But it's really not related to my normal writing at all. I have actually, I can read you a short poem.
Sure. Okay.
Should I?
Yes.
Yeah, why
Yes.
not?
It's called Ella Stamped, and this was for the anniversary of Ella Fitzgerald, the great jazz artist. I love Ella's music, so I'll just read it. This is called Ella Stamped. It was read at her birthplace in Virginia as part of an anthology. 2007, 9 years past my transition to D minor. The post office issues a stamp in my honor. The Black Heritage series. Harriet Tubman was the first, imagine. Showbiz honors stacked next to a fabled Civil War heroine. Blasphemy unless someone found freedom inside my notes. I've always been shy. I love the idea of collectors posting me up as I look to the left, a coquette, blurring graciously into a matron. Ordinary Joes lick me, then release me into the world. A love letter, a demand, someone's secret. But this time I can stop and see, stretch my legs outside the tour bus and find places that have no airports. Eat right, find a really good man, make time for friends. My voice stamped itself onto the world, declaiming Newport News, Harlem, finally Beverly Hills, blues into swing, scat to bebop bop. And that's the poem.
I love it.
You're such a good reader. You have more questions, or should we proceed to the play?
No, let's do the play. I'm looking forward to it.
Sure. I decided to read for your audience We Jump Broom. I'm particularly proud of this play. It was part of the Samuel French Off-Broadway Festival in 2023. It's been taught in Senegal and Los Angeles and New York, undergraduate students, and it's published in the Best 10-Minute Play Anthology. So I will just read it for you. It is set in Alabama in 1860 in a midnight setting outside a plantation. We Jump Broom. In darkness, Nell and Winnie laugh and gasp with love-making pleasure, then roll away from each other. The lights rise. Nell is loose and relaxed, draped in a scratchy horse blanket. She leans back and watches Winnie intently. Winnie buttons her blouse with her back to Nell and the audience. She looks oddly prim. Nell says, "Turn around. I didn't give you a lot of pleasure. Set with it and leave me alone." Nell, meet me again tonight. Winnie, we can't meet up 2 nights in a row, you know that. Nell embraces her lover. Winnie protects the place of a scar. Winnie, give my breath back. Nah, everything about you belongs to me. All of me's yours. Winnie wiggles away, then peeks over her shoulder. Winnie, what you looking at? I like to watch. You as bad as a man. Bet I do some things a man wouldn't. Winnie, now fully clothed, turns back to Nell. Winnie, I could feel your eyes on me all day long. From 10 rows away, you burning holes into my back past all that cotton. Nell, wishing them skirts off. Winnie made me sweat so bad I looked around to see if anybody could feel your heat. I was scared John Henry specked something, but he's scared of his own shadow since Mester banded him. Nell, you took yours without a whimper. Winnie, it was so much pain, I wasn't sure I was still alive. Nell, my poor child. Winnie, I crawled into your pallet that night in front of everybody. Didn't care what nobody was going to say. They could explain it because we from the same village or whatever all else. I had to be with you. Now, I got to hold you all night. The sun kissed me awake with you in my arms. Winnie, you, me, and all that pain. Nell, you didn't cry one tear. I was proud of you. Winnie, why? Nell, Winnie, why we got to be so strong? Who made it like that? Nell, a time like that shows what someone's made of. You showed out, got up and walked to them fields the next morning like nothing happened. John Henry was watching to see if you would break. You never give him that happiness. That mean a lot. Winnie, I wish I could be weak sometimes. Nell, I'm not claiming weakness. You want to flounce round pretending like Mrs. do? Winning, pretending's right. She hurt you, then go crying to Mister so he can now turn around and get John Henry to beat you some more. They laugh. It's a little bitter. Winnie, don't pay Mrs. no mind. She don't know no better than what she's been taught. The things they beat out of us, they beat into her. I'm talking about something else. I guess I don't mean weak, but I wish we could be soft with each other. Winnie grows wistful. Nell, hey. Nell draws Winnie into a clapping game. They clap. Winnie finishes and says, thank you. Then Winnie starts to cry. Nell, don't. If I let one go, one tear, I was drowning. I got an ocean of tears locked up inside me. Nell, might be enough water to carry us over the sea back home. Don't go dreaming like that. It's dangerous. Nell, more danger than being dead inside? No, Winnie, some things got to be buried deep. I'll go back first. You wait a spell. Winnie unconsciously touches the scar from the chest brand. Nell, don't do that. Winnie, don't do what? Do what? Stop trying to stretch the time out. I done already told you we gots to go. Nell, you stubborn as a mule, gal. Why, the goddess give me somebody as hard-headed as you. Winnie, half singing. Yemanja, goddess of waters, you give us tears and the water to wash them away. Answer, my beloved. Tell her why you made me like me and she like herself. Winnie retrieves small bones from her pocket, rattles them, opens her eyes, and reads them like tea leaves. Nell, a little awed, what'd she say? If we don't go back, we gonna be in trouble. They laugh. Winnie covers her scar again. Stop hiding that from me. I ain't afraid of it. You got it 'cause of me. Winnie, it's ugly. Nell, you'll never let me see it. I want to kiss it. Nell reaches for Winnie. Winnie eludes her. Winnie, they'll be missing us in quarters. Now, they might already know we gone. Winnie, they do know, but they ain't gonna say nothing. Lest we make it so they have to. We need to be back before first light. Even Mr. abide by that. Now, Mr. don't abide by nothing. Winnie, you won't have to suffer him again. I fixed that. I'll always fix it. Now, he was like a stone crushing the life from my chest. The worst was after. Winnie shakes her head. Stop. Now, it eats me up, keeping it locked up inside. I let you have your truth. Let me have mine. Tell Hetty or Topsy, I don't want them wide-hip gals telling to be told nothing. Winnie, we can trust them. They know about us. At least they suspect, but they haven't said nothing. Hetty got a way of listening. I talk to her sometimes. They got their own trouble. Winnie, when something pains you, it hurts me a long time. When you put words to a thing, I can't stop seeing it in my mind. Sometimes it bears down so hard I can hardly move. Now, please, Winnie, be quick about it. I can't let it sink into my spirit. And then we got to get back. Now, after he'd done his business, he sat me on his laps. My insides was toe up. Winnie, is that why you don't bleed right? He was laughing like it was funny. I think he liked that, 'cause that's when he let me go. Winnie, I fixed him with these. Winnie shakes the bones hard. The old ways can still work. He ain't never gonna look that way again. Nell points to the scar, but, Winnie, it was my turn to pay. In the end, we all gots to pay. You done paying him. She touches her chest. Then Winnie says, this pays it in full. Nell, I'm afraid for our girl youngins. We got to do something for him. Winnie can't hardly do for ourselves. Nell, we not even gonna try? Winnie, my body can't take another brand. Nell, I don't believe God has given you that magic just for us, too. Winnie, this time we have is the only snatch of sweetness we get. I ain't throwing it away. We already know. Master do what he want. I think I gotta tell you, Auntie think he's planning on selling 15 or 20 of us. Nell, Bucks or us? Winnie, both. I don't want you worrying on it. Nell, how you expect me not to? Winnie, you better find a way. Winnie, gal, I done told you and told you. Nell, I don't mean run away. Too many catchers out on the roads. I know that much. Winnie, at least you got some sense. Nell, marry me. Nell takes out a small whisk broom. Winnie, don't let nobody see you with that. What's wrong with you? It's against their law. Winnie, their law, not ours. We're Dahomey. Our way says anybody that loves can marry. Winnie, we're not Dahomey anymore. Forget. Nell, I don't care what they say. I belong to myself. I want us to belong to each other. In our way, the Dahomey way. Jump with me. Winnie, you planned this. Yes, ma'am. Took me weeks hiding it every few days so nobody wouldn't find it. Winnie, nobody means me? Nell, sure do. Remember how the old women swept the dirt before weddings, making patterns for a couple to grow into? Winnie, we don't have witnesses. Nell, the stars be our witness. Winnie, what if Mr. sells me? He done threatened it. Me still walking and working is a buke to him. Nell gently sweeps the ground. I'll walk to the end of the earth to find you. Winnie, how you gonna do that? We come from warriors. Nell points to Winnie's scar. You found your strength. When we most needed it, I'd find mine. Winnie, when you love hard, you don't need that. Winnie points to the broom. I do. When we become ancestors, I need our descendants to have a legacy. That matters to me. Winnie, who you planning for me to lay with to gather these descendants? Nell, I don't care. He wouldn't be with you. I would. You think too much. This time, let's just do. Winnie, don't be stupid. We got to think all the time. Got to plot every move, then 5, 6 steps past that if we want to live. Nell, we died anyway. He killed my womb. When he marked you, he broke something in you. We got to do this to keep the half-life we have going. The dawn begins to break. When he looks up at it, Nell positions the broom. Jump now, and we'll be back before it's too late. Winnie, I'm scared. Nell, throw the bones. Winnie throws the bones. She looks at Nell and nods. The bones say yes. Winnie, one more again. To be sure. Nell, throw. Winnie throws another yes. See? Broom, broom, who gon' jump the broom? Together, they say, broom, broom, who gon' jump the broom? Winnie, I, Winnie, no. Say your true name. Winnie, Marnar. I, Marnar, a Dahomey woman. Nell, I, Fugra, Dahomey woman, goddess Yemanja. Before you, we take each other. The women hold their arms out to each other, and together say, broom, broom, who gon' jump the broom? We gon' jump the broom. The women jump the broom, look behind them, kiss passionately, then exit running. End of play.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
what a
thank you.
pleasure.
Thank you again.
You are a glorious host, but I know you have other people, so I'll pop out. And also to anyone who's listening, thanks for listening to this interview, and thanks for listening to the podcast as a whole.
Thank you so much for sharing your work with us and with our audience.
Keep it up.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.